rocking that nice mustache, but you can't have
Where
this.
are you?
I'm in Sweden.
Sweden.
Yeah. Where firefighters are free to have beards.
So it is funny. We make this huge thing in America about fit test, and you have to
Yeah.
be completely clean shaven. And it's like with positive pressure SCBAs, it doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't. But and it's been like this in Sweden for as long. I mean, I started in 2002 with my basic training, and by then it was full. No, nobody cared if you had a beard. So it's been going on for maybe 30 years, about ish.
Wow.
Because Sweden had the first overpressure. I don't know. That's not the reason, but Sweden had the first overpressurized systems in the AGA systems, but back in the 70s.
Okay.
So Swedish Fire Service had overpressurized mask way before most countries had it. I don't know if that plays a part in that, people started getting sloppy with shaving, and then it kind of rolled on, and it didn't seem to be a problem, and then nobody cared. So I don't know if that's the reason, but yeah, you can have a beard. But funny thing, which is not funny, but the bureaucrats have starting to chase this again, because so the Department of Health and Safety sort of have made new laws that indirectly affect firefighters again. So firefighters might again have to shave. It's a big debate now in Sweden because
I bet it is.
Yeah,
and that's Europe, right, or at least Northern Europe.
Yeah, we're in Northern Europe, Sweden. So a lot of most in Sweden, Norway, you can have a beard. In Finland, not at all, which is our neighbors. And in Spain, you can have a beard. But most countries in Europe are really, you cannot. It's like America. You have to be clean shaven, maybe a mustache, if at all. So there's a lot of differences. So we'll see what will happen if I can keep my glorious beard, or I don't know. You have
now,
to.
Where do you operate?
I might have. I mean, I'm a part-time firefighter now, so I quit full-time a couple years ago to teach and do live fire training more. If I keep doing that, I'm my own employer, and technically I'm responsible for the work safety. So I maybe can keep my beard if I just do that. But for my part-time firefighter gig, I'm my fire department is going to make a judgment how they're going to interpret the laws, and maybe then I have to shave, which is going to be a huge thing because my wife has never seen me without a beard. My kids have never seen me without a beard. So that would be a huge thing. I don't know how I'm going to react to that, but I'll take that problem when it comes.
Right.
But yeah. But anyway, I wanted to talk to you, of course, about live fire training, and we'll get to that. But if you go back in time, do you remember the first time you started doing fire training as a recruit, like a new firefighter?
Well, I started in the fire service way back in '77. And a rescue squad that we started. I was in the military, but I wasn't a firefighter in the military. I was a maintenance controller. And I was in Florida stationed, and off base, myself and a guy from the hospital started a rescue squad. And we had a 1943 crack-a-box ambulance. And we went to all the fires and major emergencies.
Cool.
And then
no SCBAs?
We had SCBAs. As a matter of fact, the county we were in was pretty small and pretty rural. And there was a train wreck that killed 9 people, and they issued every fire department 2 SCBAs. And that's how back we're going.
Was it like the story said that, the first time, like, don't take that one, kid. The real firefighters don't need SCBAs?
Well, this was a chlorine leak that killed everybody. So that's a little bit.
Yeah, that's a different, yeah.
When I started in the fire department, we used to have the mask man on the ladder company. It was the guy who put an SCBA on. But most of us were going in without one.
Yeah.
And then he'd come up and relieve the guy on the nozzle who was taking a shellacking, you know.
So do you think now when SBAs came, at least when they started to become more prevalent, do you think that the resistance came from culture? Do you think that they actually, people think that this makes us worse firefighters, or for some reason?
I think it was more cultural, and in fairness, we got Scott 4.5s. I was in the Buffalo Fire Department for many, many years. We got Scott 4.5s, and they were a pretty new invention at that time. I don't know if you ever saw them, but they were quite a step up from the ones we were using at the time in everything. Yeah. But one of the things that always amazed me, 40-some years later, in the fire service, I'm still active in a couple of fire departments. One of the things that amazes me is we had Scott 4.5s, and they were amazing. They were lightweight. They were very easy to operate. And I thought, geez, when I retire, an SCBA will be a little thing you put in your mouth. And who knew the SCBAs weigh more today than they did in 1977. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. We keep doing stuff. I had people tell me, oh, it's an expandable platform. I want an SCBA to have air come out of it. And when it is low on air, it lets me know. I don't need any other thing at all whatsoever. I really, really don't. And I think we get carried away. They have thermal imagers inside the SCBA space piece. They have them inside your device showing you your level amount. And it's cute, but it's all bullshit. We routinely teaching today, we'll see guys, standing next to each other with thermal imagers. And it's like, it doesn't see through anything. And I'm a big thermal imager fan. I mean, I used to teach with Safe IR, and they did a great program on teaching SCBA use, thermal imager use. But the point is, it can't take the place of doing a search. No. And again, it's another one of those things that they want to put everything into a color and temperature. And I always ask people, when they have the thermal imager, what's the temperature in there? And they start going 563 degrees. And I'm like, no, you know what the answer is? Hot. And
that's all you need to know.
Does it matter if it's 563 or 622 degrees? I don't think so. It's hot. And then if it's really good fire, it's fucking hot. I don't know if that's okay to say.
Oh, for sure. You can curse as much as you like. Yeah.
And the problem I see is three people, we've literally seen it in classes, three people standing next to each other, all looking through each camera.
Yeah.
No, go search. It doesn't see through. I can help you identify, hey, Lars, you're clear up to the bed. Yeah. But I can't see through the bed. You know what I mean? I can't see through it. I have to still get in and search a space. So I think that some of the equipment, we get a little carried away. We're going through what's called OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration. We're going through OSHA, a new fire brigade standard that's going to change a lot of things. And, I think it could actually threaten some volunteer fire departments. And I'm a volunteer firefighter now. But I think it could actually threaten some volunteer fire departments in the sense of being just so laborious and so many requirements thrust upon them that they'll be hard-pressed to be able to operate.
Too much training or too much cost, which of course is training also, but
regulation, and medical stuff. None of it. The thing is, everybody looks, well, isn't that good? All those things are good, but in the aggregate, when they come together, they can just become too much.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like Gulliver strings. Not one single string is enough to tie down Gulliver, but 1,000 of them, you get hampered.
Exactly. So that's an issue, and like I say, there's a lot of things. When you're talking about live fire training, I'm jumping ahead, but one of the things they're looking at real strongly is oriented strand board, OSB.
Yeah.
And, I have a different outlook. I don't, they go, well, it may cause cancer-causing agents come out of it when you burn it. And I said, I don't doubt that for a minute. Just like I don't doubt that pressure-treated lumber has cancer-causing agents in it, and carpet, and paint, and wallpaper, and computer screens, and chairs, and couches, and ovens, and all kinds of things have cancer-causing agents in them. But you know what? So if that's a problem, OSB isn't our problem. We have a gear problem. Meaning our gear has to stop that stuff. Because I know I'm never going to go to a fire tomorrow where there won't be cancer-causing agents in the atmosphere I'm operating in. And to just cut out OSB, to me, doesn't solve any problem, but makes it worse from a perspective for a young firefighter to learn.
No, I totally get it. And I want to get to that more, definitely. I want to talk about OSB. I want to talk about, NFPA 1403 and so on, and live fire training. So I definitely will get to that part. And I want to go back because I think that one thing that sort of ties together the thing you said about the SCBA thermal imager mask is of course simplicity. Like the need for simplicity. Like I think the gear is the same thing. If you have lots of things on your gear that needs management, it's designed to help you. Or at least that's what's being said. It's designed to help you. But the more things you have that give you notifications or are in the way, the more buttons there are to press, the more ropes there is to tie and so on. Not one single thing isn't an issue. But the same goes like this. The more things you have, the more things you need to learn, the more things you need to manage, and the more problematic it becomes. So I totally agree. Like an SCBA has to be as simple as possible to get it on.
And it's not because we're dumb.
No, it's just because there's too many things that complicate things. And it's
what we work in, right? Yeah. We work in a very high tension environment. And to ask you to do an item that takes 5 or 6 steps is a lot to ask of you.
That's a lot, yeah. And we also, of course, have taken into account that most firefighters are not doing the training hours that we would like them to do. They're not as familiar with the gear, their own gear, as we would like them to do, because it's boring to do drills and just donning an SBA. Most firefighters won't do it unless they're forced to or they're very dedicated. So again, it goes back to if it's not simple, it's not going to work. And of course, that when in the engine bay they might get it on decently, but then you go to fire and they're struggling just to get their SBA on if they're not proficient. So I definitely agree, and I think that I see there's also the maintenance and cost involved with it. So with SCBA, they're becoming hugely expensive, and for sometimes, for no reason besides there's more bells and whistles. But I think I've been in the same trap, like sitting there going as a responsible now I see it a bit differently. But then if you're like, I get this opportunity to be the SCBA lead on a procurement of a product. So then you become sort of an expert in SCBAs because you read on, and then you get this list of all the features and all the things they can do, and then you want the things sort of with the most bells and whistles because that allows you to be the best. But when you have that limited scope, you don't see 5 options and 5 buttons as a problem. You see it as an opportunity to optimize. You can have the perfect strap here, and that follows your back and this and everything here. You can set it up as... And go like, that's all great if that was, again, the only things you have to worry about. But when you're going to a fire, you're not going to have that time to dial it in perfectly. It's just going to sit and slide on to the side.
So I'll give you an example that goes right along with that.
Yeah.
So portable radios. So Buffalo, New York's a poor city, or it was, and it was a poor fire department. And when I got on, the officer had a radio. No one else did. I mean, we always used to kid. You had no one to talk to. You talk to yourself on the radio. So we pushed to get radios. But then what we did over time, they evolved and evolved and evolved. And at one point, they were going to do this thing, this statewide wireless network. And they were going to replace every portable radio for every public safety person, fire, police, EMS. But, you know, I'm at a meeting and I was the fire chief of Buffalo at the time. And we were 750 career department, 750 person career department. And we had okayed it before it moved across the state of New York. We were the test bed. And the radios weren't working real well. But on top of that, they had, I can't remember the number, well over 500 individual channels available. And they said, you can talk to a snowplow driver in Poughkeepsie. And I said, I don't want to talk to him. I want to talk to a guy trapped in a basement on Genesee Street. Yeah. That's what's important. And you could go to banks and zones and channels. And I said, my fear is a guy is going to go off the right channel and not find his way back. Because it wasn't 1 through 10 or 1 through 15 or anything like that. It was literally banks, zones, channels. You could go on to something and be talking to the EPA coordinator, you know, or something. Just not who you needed to talk to. And they're like telling me all these things they don't do. And I go back to my original. I want to be able to talk. And if you're who I'm talking to, you can hear me. I can hear you, and you can talk to me, and I can talk to you. That's it. I don't need the rest. I always said that, you know, they ought to make it even easier. The one channel is dispatch, and I put it on there, and we go off to the fire. And these 25 radios are going to that fire, and the computer knows it, and it makes it the tactical channel now. But you don't have to turn anything. I can't imagine. To me, it blows my mind, and people don't pay a bit of attention to it. To me, it blows my mind that we're telling guys in full protective clothing, SCBAs, breathing air, and we're at a point in the fire where all units operating at 123 Street change channels to TAC Channel 7. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. No. I want you to change channels in that environment. It's insane. And that goes back, we're not dumb. We just operate in a different kind of place than most people. You know, even law enforcement doesn't operate in an environment where you can't see anything, where you're doing everything by feel, where there's high heat, so on and so forth.
No, I think that we had the same journey. And I remember sometimes we were having a discussion, go like, when I started radio communication, when we practiced communication, it was about how to talk, like literally physically how to talk. Don't breathe, you talk out, push the button way before you talk, so time to connect and so on. It was sort of, and then we of course talked on what to say and when to say it. But that gradually went into basically learning how the radio works. So no time was spent on actually communicating. It was about radio training, because there were so many buttons on the radios that you have to spend to figure out, you know, how to switch channels, what happens. And you can send text messages and everything. Go like, this is because it wasn't designed for fire. It was right. You're going to have this big digital network. You can talk to everyone. Great for commanders. Great for, you know, everything, talking to different services. Great. But then it was pushed down to firefighters, and the actual radio wasn't designed for that. It was just, okay, we can make it work for that. But that has been a huge struggle, and a lot of departments switched back into the old system for the fire, and you know, the actual tactical channel for firefighters, and then the new system was for command, and then your command had 2 radio channels, one command channel, one tactical, and tactical stayed the same old ones, analog radios that were simple enough that they actually worked. But yeah, I think that's a great example of but I think it goes back to that. When you have someone who is dedicated to radio, they will see all the features that you can do with it. They don't see that as a drawback. They see that as a great thing.
Yes.
Well, I think, and that's been a huge shift for me, going back 10 years, I wouldn't have said this, but now I go like, no, the absence of features is a feature. I want the
That's
simplicity.
right. That's right.
Yeah. So, but
Fire truck in the United States.
What'd you say?
You see it in fire trucks in the United States. They start to look like 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag.
Yeah.
Everything I can cram into this, cameras on the end of ladder pipes and all kinds of crazy stuff, as far as I'm concerned.
It might be, because I've been saying this for years in Sweden, that we have, because the word robust went away from the fire service, I would say, because everything became complicated. Everything went expensive, and fire trucks should have sensors and digital displays and everything. So you can't fix anything. And if something breaks, you have to ship it up to the manufacturer. There's replacement part. And then COVID hit, and there was a hard time getting spare parts. And then the fire service realized that if something happens to the supply chains, our vehicles will very quickly grind to a halt, and we can't fix them. So I think the word now, with, of course, Ukraine and in Sweden joining NATO, now is the first time I see the word robustness actually being implemented. And I think one of the outcomes, I hope, will be going back to maybe this valve should be a manual valve, not a magnetic valve with a touch button. It should be an actual valve that you switch. You should have the throttle to the pump should be a wire to the actual throttle to the pump. Yeah,
that's right.
Because you can fix it. You can fix this when there's a war. You can fix it with basically hot glue and silver tape.
No, really.
And people can understand it. And if people, at least some people in that firehouse, will understand how the pump practically works. Now, if you go to a fire station in Sweden, I would imagine the United States being the same. There probably won't be a single person who understands how the pump operates. They just know I push a button here and then it revs up, and I push a button here, then it opens the valve. But they can't, if something happens, they can't search for an error. But I think that's, that goes back to simplicity, but now it's got another side to it, that simplicity also for like robustness, like, if there's a war, they should. But I think, of course, you should look at the fire service as being going to war every day.
Sure.
That's how you should look at it, because it has to be simple. It has to just work. I've seen some statistics from the United States, how much. There was some about trucks, truck companies and the vehicle truck, the latter. How many percentage of time they were out of service because of technical problems? The
volunteer fire department I'm in right now, our truck is out of service. And I don't think it's a year old. And so this rig has 3 computer screens on the exterior of the rig, of the vehicle. One at the turntable, one at the outrigger station, and one in the bucket. And then the one in the bucket's at the front of the bucket. And I said, someone's going to crawl over that with a Halligan and smash it by accident. I mean, really?
Yeah.
It's, you have a glass panel computer screen on the bucket of a tower ladder. To me, it's crazy. And it's just asking for trouble. But right now it's out of service, and there's 3 gyroscopes in it, and no one is sure exactly what's wrong. They're working on it, so we'll see what happens. But the electronics involved and things like that in these new apparatus today are just crazy. And it's the same thing you were talking about. They show, well, you press this button and all the outriggers set up all at once. But you know what? All that stuff needs coordination to interact with each other. And if one little piece is missing or not operating correctly, the thing is shot. Right. And that's the problem you run into.
Yeah, and there's very few options in that case to manually override it, and then there's all these disclaimers like if you manually override this, you will kill everyone.
Yeah.
Which of course is not true, but it's a big problem. And I remember we had an Magirius ladder when I joined the fire department. I joined. It was it was a German engineering, great ladder. It was sort of basically non-digital. Everything was mechanical, ropes. It was never out of service. Almost. It always worked.
Really?
Yeah, and then we bought a Bronto, which was an articulated hauler. So not a ladder. It was a aerial platform.
Sure.
And it had all the sensors and everything, and you didn't have to, like, the Magir still had safety, and you couldn't run the bucket as far because everything mechanical was, about how far you can get out and everything. So it had all the features to safety, but the Bronto was always out of service because there was sensor, one leg, lost ground pressure sensor, and now shuts down. You couldn't do anything. You could just emergency pack it together, and then it was off to the dealer. No, I think that now this is not a topic I want to talk about the trucks, but it fits into the overall arching theme. I think that's colored my view on firefighting about simplicity, like how extremely important is to keep it simple, not stupid. That's the wrong word. It's simple, like to
right.
minimizing that, and it goes for like trucks and everything. I think so. But if we had to go back to live fire training, you talked about joining in Florida. You had your starting to get SCBAs. Do you remember fire training? You started to rescue. Did you do any live fire training back then, or was it you're on the job and it's on the job training?
No, I started when I started in Buffalo, and even before that, when I worked at the airport for a few years, we did live fire training. And when I started in Buffalo, our recruit school was only 6 weeks long. It was much shorter than they are today.
Yeah.
But it was, we did 14 or 16 fires in 6 weeks, each person, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
I see these places. I had a friend, a younger guy, he went to recruit school for 28 weeks, and he was in a burn building with fire in it 4 times. That's a sin.
Yeah.
That's a sin. We're selling these poor kids out.
So when you did live fire training, what was that in acquired structures, or was there in concrete and container?
We did that a facility.
Yeah,
that was in the facility. And then when I got on the fire department, I was on only a few years, and I had been a county fire instructor, and we did training in fixed facilities. But then a couple of people had asked me to start doing things in acquired structures. And of course we did. And it was, it was very good. I don't know if there's any better opportunity than an acquired structure. And I've done probably
about 1403 didn't exist back then, right?
Didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Came in 87 or 88. We were doing this in probably 81 or 82.
So you were not in charge of those burns, I guess, back then, or were you in charge back?
No, some of them I was in charge, and then very rapidly we had a team, and I was in charge all the time. But we had, so real conservatively, then I went on to be the FDIC, the Fire Department Instructors Conference, the live burn coordinator from 1996, I believe, to 2002. And just there, we probably did 350 exercises in acquired structures. And over the years, I've probably done 15, 18, 2,000, 1,500, 1,800, 2,000 fires in fixed facilities. And there's, when NFPA was talking about the original 1403, I had tried to get on, but no one was interested. And it's one of my issues with the NFPA is so often the people involved in those, even if they're the fire service guys, they have, you know, ulterior motives. They're part of this company or that company on the side, you know, so on and so forth.
It's a profit organization at the end of the day, so I guess they, you know.
Oh, it sure is. It sure is. So
no,
that's
we can definitely get to NFPA. I guess I've read you also had some, you know, your thoughts on the new upcoming NFPA on the safety line. I want to talk through that also, but I want to build it up and towards, you know, more about what it looks like today.
Sure.
And talk about the history. So when you started, do you remember, you know, like, you know, you had some instructors, I guess, at some point you showing you, you know, this is how we do it. Like, so this is how we set it up. But was it a lot of trial and error for your part?
We did a lot of trial and error, always on the side of, you know, not getting crazy to start. There's a lot of big things we learned. Like, it may sound silly, but we use the same words every time we did stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I'd call you, Lars, attack ready, we're ready.
Yeah.
Backup ready, first truck ready, second truck ready, or whatever we were working with the department. Because some wouldn't have that many guys, so we might only have an attack engine and a first due truck. Sometimes, you know, those departments, some would be like, well, we only have a, you know, whatever, 2 engines. So it's the, you know, inside truck, outside truck. Even though they might not have an aerial ladder, that team was going inside. But we would check, everybody's ready. Okay, everybody's ready. We're lighting. Seems like like who cares? But I got to tell you, you know, over the years doing these trainings, I'd have a guy come and he'd go, fire in the hole. And I go, don't say that. We don't say that here.
Yeah.
We say we're lighting. Because even if you're a little garbled, our guys can recognize those words no matter what.
Yeah.
That doesn't make the guy wrong if you want to use fire in the hole, but always use fire in the hole.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds silly, but that stuff's small and big all at the same time. But then we would finally be, let's go. That was either scenario-based where they responded in. That was skills-based where they were standing ready at the door with the hose line ready to go, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
We would change the training depending on what the department wanted, right? Or where we were with students. Some students would be starting out and it would be, we'd be starting out and it'd be skills. Literally, all we want you to do is come in here and search this room, but under live conditions. But going backwards a little bit, I think the critical thing is that we're doing it. You know, I see departments that want to get further and further away. And every time there's a tragedy, they want to get even further away.
Yeah.
And they're eventually going to go to a fire, right? Everyone's eventually going to go to a fire. And unfortunately, if we have no live fire training, very little that these guys experience before they go to the field, they're going to go to a fire and be completely robbed of any judgment ability of whether they should be operating in that or not. And it's not good. It just isn't. Because one, they don't know when they should get out, right? It's, hey, this is really tough. Let's get out of here. But they also don't know when it's okay to stay.
Yeah. They don't know the capability of their gear or their nozzle.
Their gear of themselves.
Yeah.
You know, that lady you see laying on the floor down the hall, oh, but it's hot, I better get out of here. Well, no, maybe you can reach her. Or no, you're absolutely right. She's almost on fire, and so are you, and you can't get to her. I mean, it's all reality, right? We can all say we'd always do one thing. We can all say we'd always do stuff. After 46 years in this, I can tell you that you won't always do anything. You know what I mean? Just it doesn't work that way. But all I'm getting at is that we're just selling these guys so short and asking them to perform in something that they've never experienced in their life. And it's just wrong. It really, really is wrong. Everybody's trained like you fight. Could there be any simpler thing than doing it in live fire? And we'll do different drills. I also work at the Fire Department Training Network out in Indiana.
Yeah.
And we're up to, I think we have 15 container-based props, from a single one, 40-foot shipping container, to a 6-story one that's got 25 or 27 containers built into it, and everything in between. But, we're trying to give people a realistic, real life, as close as we can to real life environment that they can do stuff in. I sit there and I often ask at classes, if I asked you, Lars, here's the deal. You're going to the firehouse tonight, right? You get there, and the chief says, Lars, I need you to do me a favor. There's 6 guys working tonight. I don't know how many you'd have, but I'm just going to use it. There's you and 6 guys, or 8, pick a day. And I need you to do a search drill, basic search drill. But you can't leave the firehouse. Because of XYZ, you can't leave the firehouse. So what could you do with your guys? You obviously can't start anything on fire. What could you do right in the firehouse?
Yeah, just a panel, the mask, no visibility. Starts, you pick them up and put them somewhere they don't know where they are. Start figuring out, where do I go, how to search, how to get out.
And that's an excellent search drill.
Yeah,
it really is. Black them out somehow. Go look for follow a hose line, find your way out, find the victim, whatever.
Yeah.
That's a great start. So I ask people all the time, what would an advanced search be? And almost everybody will say, a large area search with a rope, right?
Yeah.
And I go, well, that's good, but have you ever done it? No.
No.
Well, you probably won't either, but you should know how to do it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But what I look at is, here's how I do an advanced drill, search drill. Same kind of drill you did, but advanced. And that is, I start out with a 175-pound mannequin.
Yeah.
Guys think it weighs 500 pounds, right?
Yeah.
175, 200-pound mannequin, right? That gets real advanced real fast. Then I put you in heavy heat and smoke and fire. You know what? That's an advanced drill.
Yeah.
And we have a saying at FDTN, there's no advanced training, there's only advanced performance.
That's
and it's
so
sort of true.
Well, it's sort of true. It's not just sort of true. It's just all true, I would say.
It really, really is. And it's a case of you're training, you're doing things that you have to do under really tight, tough conditions, and it changes dramatically. So do you guys convert a harness if you rescue a downed firefighter in Sweden?
It's different. Different departments have different ones. So, but no, generally, no, not a harness. Typically, it's some kind of. I think what I was taught was nonsense back in the day, because it was based on basically, let's see how we can drag each other full daylight on the smooth concrete floor and see how we can drag each other. It was based on
so
that.
That's what I was getting at. One of the things we teach guys is, I find you down, I'll convert your waist strap, meaning I'll unbuckle it, put it between your legs, and buckle it up. Yeah. Then if I'm pulling on the SCBA, I won't pull it off your body.
Yeah.
Because if you're truly unconscious, it'll come off easy. But we practice converting the harness. So we start out on the apparatus floor. Then we are on the apparatus floor, do it again, but with their face piece blacked out. Yeah. And it's real hard.
It's really hard.
Then we do it in heat, smoke, and fire. And people are like, ah! It's hard.
It's really hard.
And we haven't changed one bit from what we did able to see on the apparatus floor. It's the environment that changed.
Yeah.
If we never train under that environment, we'll never know what we're doing. It really does change everything dramatically.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's whether it's a rescue of a civilian or a downed firefighter, it's night and day. And I think that Sweden has, we're not the worst in the bunch because Sweden has been doing live fire training on, more than most fire departments around the world, I would say. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of deficiencies and a lot of, wishful thinking about what we're capable of in that environment, because like most fire departments, it is, 40 kilo, 80-pound mannequins, and you're, not a lot of furniture. Typically, you go in, there's a fire, somewhere in there, but it's not going anywhere. It's just sitting there because it's a training fire. You smoke conditions. You maybe not see anything, but the fire's not going anywhere. And you pick up this mannequin, 80 pounds, and you stand up with it and basically just walk it out if you want to.
My favorite is throw it out the door.
Yeah, just leave it.
No, really.
Yeah.
One of the little things I do, details matter in training to me.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So I don't ever, if I can help it, doesn't mean I can. The things I hate to say are, don't put that out. I hate that. Sometimes you have to because
yeah.
you have limited resources.
Yeah.
And to do a second evolution, you just wouldn't be able to if they put the fire out.
Yeah.
But I hate, don't put that out. And I also hate, oh, no, I'm the instructor. Don't go over here. No, make it, even if you crawl up to me, once you're in 10 feet, you don't know where you are. But when you come up to me, I'm going to say, hey, this is engine 5. I got this room. I heard someone moaning down to the right.
Yeah.
And now you're still in the moment.
Yeah,
and
that's great advice. Yeah.
It matters, right?
Yeah.
If you're on fire trucks and you're driving up, put the siren on. Some guys completely change. They're a complete different person when you're blowing the siren and the air horn.
Yeah.
Right? They get off the rig completely different. So little details matter. One of the things that, and I know I'm jumping around, Lars.
No, it's okay. We're
1403, like furniture.
Yeah.
We put furniture in our buildings, not in the burn room. We've never burned them down because of the furniture. But I want you to search a bed.
Yeah.
A real bed. Because guys don't know how. They're on top of it. They barely get on the bed. They miss the corners completely. Yeah. They miss the gap between the wall and the bed.
Yeah.
And you aren't going to learn that until you do it.
Yeah.
So 1403 doesn't want you to have anything in there, right? It's, the worrying about safety is making it unsafe.
That's the perfect word. I think it's a short-sighted view on safety, meaning, sure, it might make the training safer, but it will make the firefighter less safe.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. And I go like, are you trying to make the training safe or the firefighter safe? Because that's two different questions.
Right.
So it is, but I understand it for managers who don't really understand that. They go like, you can't have trip hazards in the training. You go like, so because you shouldn't trip when you're doing training. And go like, well, then firefighters is just going to trip more badly when they go to the fire. Because fires because they've never, they're not crawling and feeling with their feet first about what's happening because they don't have to do that in training. They get sloppy in training because they know there are no trip hazards, because there's wires everywhere that block you, and there's chains in the staircase and everything just to make sure it doesn't fall. So yeah, I think that is a huge issue. I think that's the erroneous safety culture where you go like, yeah, safety is, well, it's just such a bad word, but safety is a byproduct, of course, of being good. If you're good, you're going to be safe. Now you can mask someone being bad by just preventing them to do stuff. Sure.
And you can be pretty safe being aggressive.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on, of course, if you have what you could, if you interpret that as being just cowboy running in, right, without any thoughts.
The aggressive fire company often is safer on the fire ground than the timid one that doesn't do it very often.
Because another word, I would just rather use this: the good firefighter, the proactive one. rather than reactive one.
It's like thinking beyond just 2 seconds ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, sometimes you go like, some go like, well, I want to have, experienced firefighters because, they're better and so on. I go like, yeah, but how do you get experienced? Like most fires today, training is the only thing we have. And if training doesn't match reality,
you're selling them short.
Yeah. So if you go back in time a little bit, when you start doing acquired structure burns, Fortnite 3 didn't exist. Were you doing back then? Were you doing sofas and couches, furnished rooms? Were you doing flammable liquids? Were you doing?
What we would do, in our training was we would have a piece of furniture, some hay, and usually a cushion or a couple of pallets and a cushion. If we didn't have a furniture, we would use just a cushion along with the pallets. So another one of the safety things, people are like, well, 2 pallets and a bale of hay, but no cushion. So first of all, until the newest edition of 1403, it talked about known burn characteristics. Well, even of a cushion or of a couch, I know the burn characteristics of that, right? But secondly, this is where, I don't know if it's people who have not done a lot of firefighting, period, no less acquired structure training, or what the problem is, but they don't understand stuff. So you get 2 pallets and a bale of hay, right? And you'd like the room to flash, okay? So we light, pallets take a while to get going. The hay's trying. It doesn't get to the ceiling, but it is heating upstairs. All of a sudden, we have unwanted extension to the floor above. Where I put a cushion there, it gets up to the ceiling, it starts to roll out and mushroom, and all of a sudden I have a good room of fire. It looks way more dramatic than the other, but I have no extension on the floor above.
Yeah.
I call the troops in. They attack the fire. They come down the hallway with a lot of smoke and some fire coming down the hallway. It looks great to them. It's a great learning exercise. They get in and operate the hose line and put the fire out in no time.
Yeah.
It's safer than the one that's taking a long time trying to get to the ceiling. It's just remarkable. We miss so much. And we're missing it because of trying to be careful, right? At FDTN, we use a few sheets of OSB, a couple of pallets, and a bale of hay, and that gets us a tremendously good fire load for what we're doing. And it'll be out the door, crews come in, and they have to operate. We can arrange buildings so that the openings are, you have fire coming out the door, but that's not where the true fire is. It's flames, but the true fire is around the corner, right? You're getting the byproduct of it. What's good about that is they hit it and realize, oh, it doesn't go out right away. No, you got to get the seat of the fire. I mean, I know those things seem cool, but I can teach that, and a guy will remember it much more by doing that fire that way than me sitting in the classroom and telling them that.
Oh, for sure.
Because they'll understand that fully, right? They'll understand that fully. But I just think that so many of those little things that came into the standards over the years, one of them is they don't want protective clothing on a mannequin.
Yeah.
And I don't know what death, I'm sure that was from some tragedy, but how am I ever going to teach you to rescue a downed firefighter?
Yeah.
Really? So they don't want a live victim. I can sort of see that, but they don't even want a mannequin with gear on. That's silly, right? Rescuing a civilian and rescuing a firefighter are 2 completely different skills.
Oh, for sure. We don't have in Sweden. We don't have anything close to Fortnite 3. So, technically, we could use cushions on acquired structures. We could use live mannequins. We could do anything we want, really. Typically, I mean, if you do a required structure, it is for environmental reasons, entirely, you know, all wooden, all the plastics and everything is removed before you burn it. But you can do it, and if you want to do it for the burn, let's say you want to have some burns that are, you know, darker, more smoke, because, you know, showing the students, you know, how it looks like, you could definitely do that. If you want a faster burn, you could also use liquids. You can use, you know, diesel. So in that sense, I'm very happy about it. But I think the only reason we have that, there is only two there's the three, like I think of it, the three reasons we might be able to have that still. One, we're a small country, which means that statistically the things that happen in America hasn't happened in Sweden yet, because there's just, again, enough firefighters, someone will do something stupid and then nobody gets to do it.
No,
maybe,
you're right.
So statistically, maybe we just haven't had the stupid Johnny doing something stupid and destroying it for the rest of us. Maybe it's because we generally have had a better understanding of fire, because we focused more on fire behavior training way before, you know, America was doing that. So Sweden have had a very good education on fire behavior and so on, and that maybe has prevented some of the more ignorant, lack of knowledge things that might lead up to, you know, deaths and so on. So maybe that's partially why we don't have these, but it's also culture things that in Sweden, there hasn't been a blame culture, or sort of, you know, we have to prevent everything if it's dangerous. It has to be, let's find a solution. Like if there's so many instances of things going wrong, of course, in fire training, and, you know, things happen, and the solution has always been to find a solution for it rather than just prevent it. So I don't know which part of that has made us not having very strict regulations, but I'm very, of course, happy about it. Although I'm still worried, because I don't think our training to do, for instance, acquired structure burns requires no training. You know, whichever department wants to do it can write and do it, and some departments are probably not, shouldn't probably do it based on how they do it.
Is it still done relatively frequently?
It depends on the department. Some departments don't do it at all. Some departments do it a lot. There's nothing really preventing it. It might be that the local departments don't have permission from the environmental agencies.
Yeah, so the issue we run into here in America, at least in my area, is it's not a case of a fire entity preventing us. It's a case more of an environmental agency preventing us. Or not, maybe not preventing it, but making it so difficult it's not worth the I just think guys miss out so much from everything from entering the building and putting the fire out to overhauling to search, you know, versus the building they're in all the time and know it perfectly. You know,
there's without a shadow of a doubt the most valuable training you could do, you know, besides going to a real fire. And I think, you know, the acquired structures is, of course, you've killed 100 people during your career in acquired structures. I'm just joking. Like, how many injured firefighters have you ever had? Or
we've had 2 in all my years. We had a guy twist his ankle walking out of the building.
Yeah,
and we had a guy. Sheet of drywall came down off the ceiling that was wet and hit the guy and hurt his shoulder. But all those FDIC years, we had people from not only across the United States, but from other countries, Europe, Asia, and all those times, you know, people we had never met in our lives, because that's a factor, right? You're doing your own department. It's very different.
Yeah.
You know, Nilsson and Gerdvik, I'm just making things up, but names. No, but you know those guys.
Yeah.
But we're getting guys from all over the world.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit, and still we did knock on wood pretty well. We didn't have too many issues.
I mean, it is. And that's, if you, like a goal said, so how, because there's so many issues still with live fire training and how to make it realistic. That even if you had no regulations, it would be hard technically to do it. Like, because it, you know, how the structures lay out and everything. It's even hard if you have no regulations. But on top of that, you have these regulations that are intended to make it, at least on paper, make firefighters safer.
Right.
So have people going, okay, so most people who don't understand, because we're gonna reduce the risk here by preventing, for instance, what kind of fuels we use for little reasons, or, you know, furniture inside, how the layout's going to be, or how big the fire can be, and so on. How do you think we can address that without being stamped as, you know, cowboys that just want to do anything dirty and it's dangerous, and thinking, you know, we just think it's fun to do it?
I think that you have to fall back on what we talked about already, that we have to train like we fight. And the thing is, I have not been to many fires in a building with completely empty rooms. No, I didn't go to many fires where it was completely empty concrete rooms with nothing in them. It just didn't work that way. So if we're sending people in to do that, we're, again, selling them short. You know, windows twice the size of a window, right? In some of these training buildings, just so many things that are not realistic, and they're not what we're going to deal with in real life and for recruits in a short time when they graduate. When you get on a fire department, is your department training, or does Sweden have a centralized training for recruits?
Basic training is it's not required by law, but basic training for every firefighter is typically done by the state schools, by the government schools. But technically, a fire department can train their own firefighters. So it's just that if they choose a government-trained firefighter from the schools, the government has already paid for it. If they train themselves, they have to pay for it. So it's basically go like... So the government typically provides the training for at least the funding, and pays for the training for the firefighters, and then ongoing training, of course, is done by the fire services.
And
which
what's the
big
city? Stockholm?
Stockholm is it's the main capital of Sweden.
Is that a career department?
Yeah, Sweden is. I mean, Europe is very different, so on all over, but Sweden is mainly in bigger cities. Anything above about 20,000 people maybe in a city would have typically a full-time station, full career staffed, and below that it will typically be a part-time fire service. We don't have volunteers; it's only part-time, so they would be paid to have on call, and paid for, you know, to roll out emergencies and training.
Okay, yeah.
So it's there are volunteers technically, but it is such a small portion of the entire service.
So what I have a problem with is we fall into, I'm in the northeast part of the United States, so there's training centers all over the place.
Yeah.
But you go to some parts of the United States, and people have to go a long way to get training that's hands-on.
Yeah.
And yet there's, you know, still acquired structure training is still in some places frowned upon.
Yeah.
So we go back to people not getting very good training. Our National Fire Academy does not have one training prop whatsoever. It's just classrooms.
Oh,
that's all it is.
Horrible.
And I said they can do everything they do on Zoom now. You know, well, no, really. No,
yeah.
They really,
no, Sweden is. There's a lot of. Every fire department had, up until a couple of years ago, you know, carbonaceous, you know, Class A burn buildings. Every fire department, national schools had. So there's been a lot of that. Sadly, which is horrible, a lot of departments have switched, or at least two also went to propane, you know, burn buildings, which are of course crap for building firefighters. But a lot of departments switched that. I'm seeing some trends going back to carbonaceous. I'm trying really hard to work towards that, because again, propane buildings are just crap for most things fire related. But I know you don't have a lot of time, so I want to jump back again, and I want to go. Let's imagine that there's no Fort North 3. Let's just imagine going back towards your experience. You talked about one of the most important things being, clear communication in terms of, what words you use. So that's one part of making it safe. So we speak the same language. When you say something, you know what I mean, and so on. So that's one part of making it safe. Now let's dive into what other are the key things you would say this has to be in place to make not just safe acquired structures or live fire training in burn buildings, but just also effective. What are more key things that you would see?
So we talked a little about what you're burning.
Yeah.
What you're burning can actually seem to some people not good, but is actually good. Yeah. Right? We talked about that couch cushion.
Yeah.
Getting that fire up to the ceiling quicker so you have less chance of extension to the floor above. But by far, the biggest issue I have with the standard to this day, and what they're talking about even in the future, is we have always employed a instructor staffed safety line, not a backup line. And I know, again, some people go, well, it's just semantics, not a backup line. There's no students on this, right? We would have a backup line with students on it, right? Yeah. So a TAC would have 2, 3, 4 firefighters, depending on the staffing of a department, to try and keep it realistic. And our instructor, right? And the backup line would do the same. The trucks would do the same. But somewhere within a straight shot, you don't have to move that hose line at all. Somewhere there is a hand line with 2 instructors on it, standing by, charged, that all they have to do if anything goes wrong, if there's any issue, is open the hose line and the fire's out. It's right in front of them. The fire's on the 2nd floor. We have the safety line either up the stairs, up a different stairs, or over a ladder. But if it's the bedroom on that side of the hall, then the safety line's in the bedroom on this side of the hall. Yeah. And they can put that fire out. And this may seem like real basic, but NFPA 1403 says that the backup line, which is what they're looking at, can be on the floor below or outside the building. That, Lars, is why we have guys in 2024 still susceptible to being burned to death. And you look at all kinds of issues we've had. Yeah. Guys crawling in a place and a mattress igniting and killing them in Florida. 2 people going into a place in Michigan with all kinds of combustible and flammable liquids. And the fire taken off, a firefighter dying in recruit training down in the mid-Atlantic. And all these things had all different stuff. One of the firefighter had trouble getting out the window. It doesn't matter. If the safety line is in place, yeah, they put the fire out and the fire's out, and someone can have all kinds of trouble getting in and out a window. They'll still be okay. The other part about it, too, is I can't tell you the amount of times that we would be going, attack line, oh, you ready? We're ready. And then still not being quite ready. Oh, Lars had to get his face piece on. Yeah. And we don't have to, we're not going to time Lars putting his face piece on with a stopwatch. We're going to use a calendar. Right? Because that's how long it takes them. But all I'm saying is those things we've had happen. We had a fire, we did a live burn at a pretty good sized hospital. Yeah. And the first fire, well, we didn't know there'd be a real fire, And real fire going down the hallway, right? Yeah. But I can tell you, I can think of 5 at least fires right off the top of my head that we got to put out because that, whatever reason, they weren't ready. Yeah. And we worked real hard for that. One of the craziest ones, and this is just I point out for kind of things you can have happen. This department had just bought new hose. So one of the things, when you roll the hose and it sits in a factory for a while, gets that permanent kind of crease.
Yeah.
They had inside their hose, just behind the coupling, a piece of round, hard foam.
Oh.
It slid in there to keep the crease out.
Yeah.
So the crews, tack line ready, backup ready, first truck ready, second truck, everybody's ready. The guy even bleeds the line and a little water squirts out.
Yeah.
They start down the hallway, open the line, and not a drop of water comes out. Long story short, that sponge had moved its way up to the nozzle, and that was it. So we ended up putting the fire out. But it was not a big deal in any of these instances because we could put the fire out. And NFPA doesn't have it in 1403 now. And my understanding, at least, is that it's not going to be in 1400. So they have all these things they worry about.
Yeah.
But they don't worry about the things
the main
really
issue.
matter.
The main issue.
Right. And we've had people killed in live fire attack training.
Yeah.
Across the United States. And, very seldom is it from the incident command system wasn't implemented correctly, right? No. At the live fire attack. It was because they burned to death or smoke on them because they didn't have water to put a fire out. So I am a broken record, but the last thing a student should pass before they get to the fire is an instructor staffed safety line. And I'll say it again, the last thing students should pass is an instructor staffed safety line. That's in place, that's operational, it's from another water source, everything is better. But even then I get into issues with people. There's one hydrant out in front, right? So the attack line, the backup line, the crews are going to operate off that hose line, right? Or excuse me, off an engine hooked to that hydrant, right?
Yeah.
Then people say, oh, there's not another engine or not another hydrant. So we have another engine there with 750 gallons of water. We'll stretch that for the safety line.
Yeah.
People say, oh, is that a secondary water source? I go, we could put this fire out 15 times.
Yeah.
They just missed the point, right? That's the concern versus not having a safety line whatsoever. So, and the line being on the floor below, forget it.
Yeah, it doesn't do any good.
That's why we're doing this training. You ever see some of these guys stretch a hose line? It's agonizing. So forget it. If that's what you're counting on, it's too late. So I get on my high horse. I apologize.
No, but I think that's awesome. I think that's, of course, you've learned from experience. I would say because Sweden doesn't have those kind of rules either. Again, we just have basically common sense and the normal procedure we have for smoke diving. For instance, that we can't smoke dive without we can't do it here without a hose line and so on. That's our regulation. It's always been that, as long as there's been hose lines. Back to the...
We do search above a fire without a hose line.
But that plays into that. We always have a hose. Like if you're an instructor, an acquired structure burn, you have to have a hose line with you, because you're not allowed to operate without. Because it's deemed as to be interior work, even though it's training, so that you have to have a hose line. Sure. So we naturally have that, whether we like it or not, for training. But I've learned from experience, of course, also that the two biggest things for me is I need a hose line and I need a door. Like if I have a door between me and the fire, or the hose line, there's really nothing I can't handle in sense of, if someone gets a problem with air, the SCBA goes bad. Hit the fire, open the windows, vent it out, solve the problem. If somebody's a hose problem, search problem, loss problem.
One of the things we have at FDTN, we have some pretty involved containerized buildings.
Yeah.
We have multiple story ones, multiple containers. But one of the things we have, of course, there's a Mayday, right? Do you have Mayday in Sweden? There's something to the effect. But beyond the Mayday, if we have someone in trouble, we also have dump the building. And dump the building isn't for students. It is partly for students. We're getting them out. But dump the building is open those containers up, and it's a campfire with hardly any smoke in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing in the world. I would argue all day long that containerized buildings are safer than concrete engineered burn buildings all day long.
Yeah, I love containers.
The containerized buildings, I think, are much, much, much safer. And it's because we can control that environment, I think, better. Like I say, we can open that building up. We have one that's 5 containers on one level, 4 containers on the upper level. And we can open those, and you could walk through in shorts and flip-flops in about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And 30 seconds before, you wouldn't see your hand in front of your face, right? Yeah. It would be really good conditions. But that's what I like about them. You can't do that with a concrete building. There's some windows you can open, but they won't exhaust that quickly. So...
No, I think that's again. I've from experience. I've let my guard down in terms of letting the students handle the safety lines. I've done that error. I've done my probably of me not building temporary doors that are not attached as they are. So when you actually start to use them, they are gone because they fell over. Hose line knocked them over. So I'm trying to close the door, and there's no board there and on. So I've done a lot of those problems. Nothing really, nothing bad happened, but it constantly reinforces that. I should skip on.
I'll tell you a story quick. We were in California doing a live fire training in an acquired structure. So we have an instructor with the hose line, the attack line, as well as the safety line. So everyone's ready. We've talked about it all. It's the first fire. This guy's on the nozzle. He's ready to go. They start down the hallway. It's a family room at the back of this house. Good fire in it. The instructor's coming down. About 3/4 of the way, he hears thump. Right? Thump. He looks, and the kid, he can just barely make out the kid heading back to the door. So he picks up the line, hollers to the safety line. Him and the safety line put the fire out. So they go out and go, what happened? He goes, well, when you said there'd be a fire in there, I didn't know you meant a real fire. The reason I passed that along is because if you do this, anything you could even remotely think of can happen.
Yeah.
Right? Anything. From that to stuff with us to anything can happen.
Yeah.
And I just like people to know, and that's why, again, like the broken record I am, that's why the safety line is so important to me. Because I know everything else fails, I have a line of defense ready. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. I haven't done the volume of fires that you have, so I probably have fewer of the horrible experiences where you go, I sure am happy I had a line and so on. But another example, I was sitting there, I was not on my toes. I was sitting right next. It was not a scenario drill. The students were just sitting in the room next to the fire compartment. There was a doorway between it, but there wasn't a door. It was just a doorway. So light a fire, start rolling in the ceiling. Before we talked to students, there was only 3 of them or something, and me talked about students. The only thing you do, when I say, when I tap you on the shoulder, you should just start cooling and cool your way up to the doorway and just get water in the fire compartment. So it was basically a 3, says that's like 10 feet advance with a hose line to knock the fire down. So super simple, but acquired structure. So I start rolling in the ceiling, and I tapped the firefighter on the shoulder. I was just sitting there, so I didn't have my own hose line. Only student had one, and a backup one with other students. And the firefighters just started walking, and they got 1 meter or 3 feet. So it was out of my reach, and he just kept walking into the doorway, and there was flames blowing out. So it was basically half the firefighter was just in flames. And of course, I go like, holy crap! I dive into that one just in the SCBA, just chucks him back to and go like, holy crap! Trying to scramble for a line and then start getting water on the fire. Good gear, no problem. Wasn't any damage on the gear because it was such a short period of time. But I was like, I was too far away, didn't have a safety line, didn't have control of the door. So that's enough. Like, it's just, you think that you are safe because I'm so close, it's not a problem. It's such an easy drill. They know what to do. We've practiced it. We talked about it. They've gone, yes, sir, we're going to do that. And boom, something goes wrong. And in this case, it was a language problem. Wasn't really good in Swedish, and I didn't know that because they were nodding and saying, yes, sir. And like, I didn't know that they weren't really understanding. So, and I have so many experience like that you call it, go, holy crap, I did not anticipate that.
Right. And it's the simplest thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what you say is so perfect. 10 feet away.
Yeah.
But that's all it takes.
Well, so because it was so fast, it went from this seems fine to holy crap, like I got to do something. And of course, 5 seconds later, it would have been a major problem because 2 seconds in flaming conditions, no problem. 5 seconds, holy crap, it's starting to get hot. Now,
One of the things we run into is not an uncommon problem, just what you're talking about, but like, okay, you're the first to truck, inside truck, right? You're the search team, and you're going in, and one of the things we deal with, it rears its ugly head every now and then, the guy wants to go in the fire room.
Yeah.
I go, would you do that at home? Well, I try and get as far as I could. I go, there was fire a foot from the floor coming out the door. Where will you go? I want to show my buddies I'm tough,
Bird helmets, got some.
Oh, the whole thing. Yeah. Exactly. And that's a really common thing, which you have to be ready for. One of the things at FDTN that's different, we do a camp class. We'll have 110 students, and it's all skills. They'll go to 6 different stations over 3 days, half a day station. But when we do that drill, we'll have 85 instructors / support personnel.
Holy crap!
Oh yeah, that's why. I see these state courses. They just started in New York. It used to be one guy was with them.
Yeah.
Now it's like maybe 3. But, that's the difference with us. We're as close as you can get to one-on-one.
Yeah.
So it's a factor. If you weren't there, where's that kid?
Yeah.
Right?
It's of course not just for safety. Then you have the ability to do feedback on a whole different level, because if you're one, you're just going to see a perspective on things happening. And how much can you coach the students? Not very much. So if you want to do good training, you have to be close and see what happens so you can give feedback and saying, oh, you searched here, you didn't search here, you missed this spot, try to do this next time. So that's awesome. But I don't think people really understand, because the Fire Department Training Network, for someone who hasn't been there, I've fortunate enough to be in there and seen it, because I have FDIC once.
Oh, did you come up to FDTN?
Yeah, so I went to, but it was before COVID, of course. It was back then, and then I didn't know what it was. I was just there, so I didn't realize what a place it was until I saw it and so on. And back then, it was smaller back then, of course, than it was right now. But also, it wasn't, because I'm so used to Sweden that everywhere there's burn buildings doing sort of like that. Not as, and the state schools are bigger than the Fire Department Training Network, so I didn't think it was just looking at it. But what I since realized, of course, first off, how different it is towards most of what's in America, but also about a lot of the philosophy differences that also great to Sweden, because we have also very few instructors and so on. So there's so much valuable things. I would love to go to FDTN to do training one day.
It's an amazing place.
Yeah.
I've been involved with it pretty much since it started. We're about 24 years now. We started out with one container.
Yeah.
And Jim McCormick, who runs it, was on my team at the FDIC years.
Yeah.
So that's how we got to know each other. But we started out with one container, and I think, like I said, we're 15 props now.
Yeah,
buildings.
that's huge. Yeah.
You know, and just it's also a mindset and a culture of, you know, there's things we want to do. We are not going to tell you don't put that out. Yeah. We're not going to tell you don't, you know, so on and so forth. I'm overhauling the ceiling. Oh, don't do that. No, they do that. Yeah. Right? If that's what they would do, that's what they do. So we really push that it's as close to what they're going to deal with in the street as we can. We have that class, fire camp, where it's those 6 skill stations, and it's search, quarters, basements, RIT, survival. Do you know what RIT is?
Yeah.
Rapid intervention, RIT, and force.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on RIT just quickly? Because from my perspective, standing on the outside waiting for something to happen isn't very fruitful.
So I think that what we have to look at, and this is tough for people because safety does sort of take over everything, but is especially America's full of fire departments that are 7 guys on duty. They have 2 engines and a ladder, and the next help is 30 miles away.
Yeah.
Like, that's not where I live at all, but in the middle of the country, there's 1 million of those.
Yeah.
There's 1 million of those fire departments. And I always said, are we being safe? It goes back to the using a cushion, right?
Yeah.
Are we being safe out of the 7 guys, keeping 2 of them out?
Yeah.
Right? Are we safer or more dangerous? Because if they could go in and get another handline on the fire, maybe everything would be safe.
Yeah.
Or they could do a search faster, and even if it was bad, we could back out faster. There's a multitude of things. But
if someone gets sick, they're already close by rather than standing outside.
Right. So I don't know. I don't know there's a perfect answer. But I know that we've spent a generation looking at that way.
Yeah.
You know, that at all costs we'll have those people. It's the same as one of the things done in a lot of America is the first new unit arrives and the officer becomes the boss.
Yeah.
The incident commander. And again, there's 4 people, let's say, on the fire truck. What are you in charge of? There's a pump operator and 2 guys, or 1 guy's at the hydrant, 1 guy's trying to stretch a line. Help him. The best way you could make him safer is help him. Don Abbott, who's passed away now, did the Mayday Project.
Yeah.
They looked at a couple thousand Maydays. But one of the things they found in the first one was that 71% of the Maydays, the company officer was outside the building as the incident commander while his crew was alone.
Yeah.
That should be pretty startling for people. If you're the company officer, that first due engine or first due ladder, I want you to go in with your crew. Sweden, ladders are just a piece with 1 guy, like England.
Yeah, it's just a ladder to go to high places, and then it's staffed with whatever needed.
Yeah, usually the engine is everything, right?
Yes.
Crew-wise, yeah. But I'm just saying, you know, if you have 20 people there, we need an incident commander. If you have 2, I think it could be the incident commander from that. And going back to my fire department I told you about, these fire departments with a couple people, right? 5, 6, 7 guys on duty. The other issue you could run into is that, and this is real blasphemy in the United States, but I said, you know, guys say, well, we need a guy outside running the fire. I go, well, then have the pump operator do it. They're like, oh, you can't do that. And I go, why not? The whole thing to pumping is now a preset button that you push.
Yeah.
Right? So if I can do that, can I just, I mean, I would rather not, but I'm just saying, if you're that short,
yeah,
have a pump operator do it.
yeah.
Because us having all these people out here waiting for someone inside to die, it doesn't seem like the most best use of our personnel.
We have, I mean, our problem is, yeah, our problem is even bigger because it's gone from the officer, the first responding captain, a crew commander, you know, the first responding company officer. Back in the day, were an SCBA and they could go in. But that transitioned over the years to they never went in, and now they don't even have a breathing apparatus because they're standing outside all the time. It was so firefighters. There's no officers inside the building in Sweden ever. Basically, there's only firefighters. So they're the good thing about that is we have firefighters that with a high sense of autonomy. You know, they're running everything inside. So that's a good thing that you have firefighters with autonomy, that you have, you know, they're allowed to basically do the search as they find most optimal and fight the fire and so on. So that's a good thing. But what we definitely for sure can say is that when we have more officers arriving, that nobody of the officers then go inside when we have any stretch of, you know, let's say in 10 minutes we haven't solved the problem, or in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, that we don't send.
Or the other way.
Yeah.
Or the other way. We have 15 or 18 guys in there.
Yeah, exactly. Then we need to coordinate that in some way. Yeah. Because that we don't send officers inside then is, I think, horrible. And there's nothing in our legislation that says we can't do that. It's just that we have culturally and traditionally never done that, and we stopped doing that. And I'm making some pushes. I'm going to write some articles about, you know, trying to change that. It won't be easy. That's going to be a hard one. but I totally agree that a lot of times where the officer does the most good is, of course, going inside and coordinating the crew.
Especially if that crew is a 6-month guy and a 2.5-year guy.
Yeah. And again, if you have two crews, you know, second, you know, truck comes in to do, now you have 4 people inside, you know, how you can need to coordinate that search in the most efficient manner. Of course, it's supervised, but I think what Sweden had was sort of that if you're going to send officers in, it's because you don't trust the firefighters. You know, it's about, they go like, oh, you don't trust them. That's why you want to go in and, you know, spray water over here. They're afraid of the micromanagement of the firefighters.
Yeah. I don't look at it that way, but I understand what they're saying, but I don't look at it that way. I want to report back to the incident commander. Hopefully as a officer, I have a little bit more experience, right? Yeah. To be able to make judgments and let the incident commander know. And then there are times, you know, we send a lot of people to a fire in Buffalo. We send 33 people on a first alarm. That's and I always say, you get a good attic fire in a big 2.5 story frame. An officer is at the base of the attic stairs truly is a traffic cop. Nope, that's enough up there right yet. No, because guys are aggressive. They do want to work. God bless them. But I don't need 11 guys on the stairs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I do have a question. What will people do to see this?
Oh, it will be on YouTube, on Facebook, and you know, it will be posted, and then on my website you can go also have the link to YouTube. So yeah, I will post it on.
The Firenerd is the name of it.
Yeah, Swedish Firenerd. That's my website, SwedishFirenerd.com. There was one of your American colleagues that started calling me that, so I picked it up, and then that became the Swedish Fire Nerd. But I'm a proud fire nerd.
When they want a class in Sweden, let me know.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to have you over. I would love to see I dabble with building container props. I would love to have you come over and do some nozzle work in one of my container props. I think you would find it quite different towards where you have seen. Because they're insulated, and there's smoke generators with wood smoke that pushes smoke into the fire, into the primer fire. So you can have you can extinguish the primary fire as many times as you like. You just light it with propane, a good kind of propane. You light it with propane, dry it out, and there's wood smoke pushed into that fire compartment all the time. So you can just do repeat it. You can do fire attacks all day long if you want. You can just go on and on and on and on with primary fire suppression.
And where is that?
That's in Karlstad, Sweden. So that's where I live. Yeah, you can go there.
Say it once more.
Karlstad. It's basically, if you draw a line, if you see Sweden on a map and you see Oslo, Sweden, main capital of Sweden is Stockholm, and Oslo is the main capital of Norway. If you draw a straight line between those, you would find Karlstad in the middle. Sort of. It's an 80,000 people city or something like that. It's way too big for my taste, but my wife wants to live here, so I live here also. I'm a small town person, really. But yeah, you would more than welcome to come and do burns. And I would love to go to Fire Department Training Network to do burns too. That would be awesome.
Oh, you should try and get out. You'd love it.
No, it's been. I haven't been to the United States before COVID because COVID hit. Then I had a lot lined up, but then the calendar got cleared, like most people, about traveling and so on. And then I had just got a kid, and then I got a second one, so small kids. I didn't want to travel as much. But they're getting someday. But I'm seeing the horizon here. I'm gonna travel a little bit more because it's so fun to go around meeting nerds that love fire training.
I'm one of them. I'm a nerd too.
Yeah, well, they say you're just into it. It's just fun, and then if you bite into it once, you can't really let it go.
Fire nerd too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm at the scoot, unfortunately.
I totally understand. I would love to talk more about live fire training because there's so many aspects that I think that are vital. But I'm very thankful that you took the time, Mike. It's awesome to talk to you, and hopefully we see each other live someday.
Sounds good.
Cool.
All right.
Have a good day.